Hey guys, welcome to the sixth section of the Getting Started with Spring 5 course. And this section will be related to Spring MVC support. In this section, we're going to learn MVC and how it is implemented in Spring Framework. We also take a look at implementation of controller as part of MVC pattern, view, and how to pass a data as a model to the view so that it will be rendered to the end user. And of course, we also need to take a look at how exceptions can be handled as part of Spring MVC support in order to make sure that all exceptions are handled correctly and users of our application will see only user-friendly messages. In the first video of this section, we're going to take a look what is MVC as a pattern and how Spring implements it. Okay, what is MVC? MVC stands for three letters. It's a model, M, it's a view, V, and it's a controller, C. In Spring Web MVC, we can use any object as a command. We do not need to implement a framework-specific interface or base class. Spring's view resolution is extremely flexible. A controller is typically responsible for preparing a model map with data and selecting a view name, but it can also write directly to the response stream and complete the request. View name resolution is highly configurable through file extension, through bin names, property files, or even a custom view resolver implementation. The model, the M in MVC, is a map interface, which allows for the complete abstraction of the view technology. We can integrate directly with template-based rendering technologies such as GSP and FreeMarker, or directly generate XML, JSON, Atom, and many other types of content. The model map is simply transformed into an appropriate format, such as GSP request attributes or a FreeMarker template model. With all mentioned concepts, we will face in more details in a little bit later. Now let's take a high-level overview of Spring MVC capabilities. Let's take a look at Spring MVC Principles. These are clear separation of roles. Each role, controller, validator, command object, etc. can be fulfilled by a specialized object. We can also provide custom implementation for each role. Another principle is adaptability, non-intrusiveness, and flexibility. We can define any controller method signature we need, possibly using one of the parameter annotations such as request param, request header, pass variable, and more for a given scenario. One more principle stands for reusable business code, does not need for duplication. We can use existing business objects as a command or form objects instead of mirroring them to extend a particular framework base class. One more principle stands for customizable binding and validation. Type mismatches as application-level validation errors that keep the offending value, localized date and number binding, and so on instead of string-only form objects with manual parsing and conversion to business objects. One more principle is regarding customizable handler mapping and view resolution. Handler mapping and view resolution strategies range from simple URL-based configuration to sophisticated purpose-built resolution strategies. Spring is more flexible than Web MVC frameworks that mandate a particular technique. Last but not least principle is flexible model transfer. Model transfer with a name-value map supports easy integration with any Vue technology. Now let's take a look at Spring MVC internals, how MVC pattern is implemented in Spring framework. In this slide we can see that flow, how request is coming to the web application and how it is handled within the application. So initial call is incoming request, where the request is coming to front controller, usually dispatcher servlet, which determines which controller should handle this request and then delegates a request handling to exactly this controller according to request mapping defined on this controller. Then controller handles a request and creates a model and then delegates a rendering of this model as part of the response to the dispatcher servlet, or front controller in our case. Then front controller renders a response by invoking the Vue template engine, which renders a particular data that comes from controller to the Vue template. And then after the rendering process, the result is back to front controller, so that front controller as part of usual servlet response will be returned to the caller client. According to general principle that is following by the Spring team, Spring framework has great flexibility and robustness, and Spring MVC implementation is following the same principles and rules. According to these capabilities, Spring MVC provides integration with many Vue technologies like Java Server Faces, Apache Struts, Tapestry, etc. And those are just a list of built-in integration with technologies. However, Spring framework has quite good and strong community, and this community also provides a contribution, and one of such contribution is integration with one of the modern template engine that is called TeamLeaf, and this integration is actually provided by the community. And as part of this tutorial, we're going to use this template engine as our Vue technology for our MVC implementation. So this was a high-level overview of Spring implementation of MVC pattern.